It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
And welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast. Yes, we are here 7 days a week and covering the very latest in property news every morning on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, as well as Amazon. And into a Wednesday we go. It's the 21st day for February for 2024, and the Gold Coast's allure is shining brightly at the moment, particularly Palm Beach, which has clinched the title of Australia's most desired suburb, with homes garnering the highest saves on realestate.com.au. In fact, Queensland dominates the list with 6 out of the top 10 suburbs, including Currumbin and Miami, attracting buyer interest up to 3.5 times the national average. PropTrack says despite rising prices, Queensland's appeal remains strong amid a nationwide quest for sea change living and housing affordability challenges. So I'm not sure if there's any great surprises in there, but Currumbin, as we know, and we've talked about it, that has been going off, particularly since COVID. Well, this morning we are catching up with Simon Kustinmacher, and I'm sure that Simon's got a few comments or two to make about coastal properties. And a very good morning to you, Simon. Welcome back.
That's great to be on.
So, yeah, we shouldn't really be too surprised about the Gold Coast having 6 out of those 10 suburbs dominating for sure.
Oh, absolutely not. There's nothing holding back at the Gold Coast at the moment. You want to remember that as a traditional classic retirement destination, the Gold Coast is benefiting, demographically speaking, from the aging of the population. We now have the big fat baby boomer cohort aging out of the workforce, entering the retirement phase of the life cycle. So they are a mobile cohort now. They can move to, let's say, the Gold Coast. Of course, on top of this, you have the continued working from home trend, meaning more people that are still in the workforce can actually act like retirees on the housing market and move to lifestyle destinations, particularly if they are still in extreme commutable distance to, say, the Brisbane CBD, which the Gold Coast certainly is. So there's nothing holding back the area from that perspective. Plus, as if this wasn't good enough, we still have the Olympics looming. And traditionally, we say an Olympic Games, if it's managed well, can have a positive impact, a positive attraction effect 8 years before the Games. So we are just now 8 years before the Games. That effect can also theoretically last, at least from a tourism perspective, another decade or two after the Games. So we are putting Brisbane, the broader southeast Queensland area, increasingly on the map, and the Gold Coast has everything going for it.
You know, in terms of just talking about the work from home, I'm not sure how much sort of work you've done on this, but it's something that I think is right there for the taking, and that is connectivity is obviously so important. You need really good Wi-Fi, bandwidth, etc., all of that. But there is a large amount of property, and I've talked about this tirelessly. There's a lot of areas around Australia that doesn't have great connection when it comes to Wi-Fi. But you look at Starlink and different products that are available that just sort of opens up some of these remote areas, and you can get yourself a bit of a bargain as a result of that, because I think many people look at it and go, no Wi-Fi, cannot buy, but that's a bargaining chip.
Yeah, and of course, the Starlink technology is still at the infancy. So at the moment, Starlink is still slower, significantly slower than a decent NBN type connection. So depending on what type of connectivity needs you have, if you deal with really large files on a regular basis, Starlink is probably not the way to go. If it's mostly just about having connectivity, Starlink does indeed open up a wider area. But we do, of course, want to remember that there are actually very few jobs in relative terms where we will work fully remotely. Most jobs will still operate under a hybrid model where you go to the office once or twice a week. Probably not all that much more frequent because we know from research into team cohesion and knowledge transfer that you can run a team, a reasonably large team, when you're only getting together once or twice a week. That's plenty. But it is not as good. A remote team isn't as good. So we know that the population growth will only happen within a 2-hour drive time radius of the main job centers. That's how far people are willing to commute in an extreme circumstance. I only go to the office once or twice a week. I'm happy to drive 2 hours in, but I only do this once or twice a week, not every day. And that is a bit reshifting the geography of Australia, but we're not moving into the absolute hinterlands. These areas are not being unlocked at scale because we will still stay, to a certain degree, shackled to the office towers.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, I wonder if that is going to change as time goes on. All right, this is Simon Kustinmacher with his thoughts on property. We'll come back in just a moment because we want to discuss hitting 27 million people in Australia and how to retire with enough money. We'll talk about that next.
Every week, real estate transactions take place as the market shifts month by month. And every day, we keep you better informed and updated on the Real Estate Podcast.
Well, if you're looking for affordable housing near Melbourne's CBD, in a Domain report, they are suggesting to head to Maidstone, where the median house price sits around $808,000. Now, that is the cheapest within a 10k radius of the CBD. Other budget-friendly options include West Footscray itself, Brunswick West and Kensington, all under $1 million. However, suburbs like Flemington are now over $1 million. And if you look at affluent areas like Toorak and Brighton, they are commanding prices over double the median, which probably is no surprise. But despite challenges, demand remains pretty strong, driven by squeezed rental markets and a preference for smaller properties near workplaces. And experts do note that there is this resurgence in city post-COVID lockdowns with increased buyer confidence and activity going on.
We unpack all the important stuff so you're better informed. Know your property with us on the Real Estate Podcast.
And right now it's time for another 30-second property tip. We are going back to the Sunshine Coast and to Hamish in Mooloolaba. Good morning, Hamish. What have you got for us?
I guess today, Craig, I'd like to sort of talk to auction tactics for buyers. We've got more and more auctions happening on the Sunshine Coast, and some people aren't that experienced with them. In Queensland, we're not allowed to quote prices or price guides as they are allowed in southern states. But what we sort of suggest to most people to be successful in an auction, and 60% of people that are successful, the first bidder of an auction, is just bid early and make sure that your increments are nice and strong so you're not sort of giving away your end point in your auction tactic.
Make better informed decisions with the latest news and insights.
And we are this morning talking to Simon Kustinmacher and 27 million people, Simon, in Australia now.
Exactly. Yet another milestone that has been reached in the population journey. And every new million that we reach is a wonderful excuse, if you will, to talk about population growth and to talk about are we on the right track with a big Australia approach, or will we potentially slow down population growth? And my humble opinion is that we only have the choice, essentially, to go with a big Australia approach. I don't see any plausible government scenario where we will slow down migration. What I mean by this is that we take in migrants to make money and to fill gaps in the workforce. And the retirement of the baby boomers alone creates such a big gap in the workforce that we will need to import those people from overseas. Plus, in the next 13 years, we are doubling the population 85 plus. That is an important milestone again in a life's journey, because 85 plus, half of the population that reaches 85 and that lives on until whenever, need care on a daily basis. The care needs that we have in Australia are absolutely ludicrous. If you've ever been to an aged care home in the last couple of years, decades even, you know that this is imported labor that is providing care services. So international education brings in so much money, and a third of all migrants are international students. There's no way that we will significantly slow down migration. So the important challenge then for a country is that we deal with this, that we plan and build accordingly. And over the last 2 decades, we failed to do so. We allowed population to grow at a faster rate, then we built infrastructure, then we added to the housing stock that had obvious problems, meaning essentially make housing super unaffordable. That is a political issue for people that cannot afford housing. But in the meantime, anyone who owned housing, be this as an owner-occupier or as an investor, had a great time and made decent money with it. We will not slow down. People sometimes say we'll slow down migration intake to get us, to rest and catch up on building or adding housing stock. And I would say this is not going to happen. So we do need to build property faster just to make sure we can keep track with the continued fast population growth.
Yeah, such a political football, that one, because you slow down immigration and it's like turning off the tap, and the politicians don't want to tap down the economy. All right then, Simon, always great to catch up with you, find out what is going through your head at any time. And we have started, of course, in 2024 with a lot of things to think about. And I think you're thinking about a lot of these issues all day, every day. And thanks for coming on to the Real Estate Breakfast this morning.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Decode the property market with insider knowledge and insights to better navigate your real estate journey on the Real Estate Podcast.
And you were telling me off air that you have owned and sold multiple properties. You've lived in different countries as well. You've done the whole renting aspect out. You've got all this experience you've seen those premiums go up, but this is something different.
Yeah, this is definitely something different. It was quite of a shock. So I'm familiar with, you need insurance for your property and you pay your insurance and you do it. It's just part of it. And then getting this increase so suddenly with no explanation, I was unhappy with it. But I was unhappy for not just myself, actually, and that's what spurred me to speak publicly about it. I thought of all of those people, they just can't afford it. I managed to afford it. But what about people who are already struggling? That's what made me really angry. It's not acceptable.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.